The moment I stepped into the leasing office, I felt something wasn't right. The air was heavy, too quiet, too still. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened when the door opened. Standing there, smiling like a ghost from my past, was my ex-husband's new wife. My breath caught. My heart pounded. What was she doing here? And why was she listed as the new tenant for my apartment? And then she said something that made my blood run cold. Words I never thought I'd hear again. She looked just as shocked as I was. Her lips parted, but no words came out. The landlord, cheerful and unaware of the storm between us, smiled and said, "Oh, what a small world. Looks like you two already know each other." I felt my knees weaken. The air around me grew heavy, thick with awkward silence. My eyes darted past her, and there he was. Daniel, my ex-husband, standing right behind her, carrying a box with that same smug look he always wore when he thought he was in control. For a moment no one spoke. It was as if time had stopped, trapping all three of us in that narrow hallway. I could feel my heart pounding, my palms sweating, and my stomach twisting. The lease paper slipped from my hands and fluttered to the ground. The landlord bent to pick it up, chuckling softly. "Let's head inside, shall we?" he said, leading me toward the apartment I was about to rent. But I couldn't move. My feet felt glued to the floor. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to turn around and leave. But my pride wouldn't let me. Instead, I forced a smile and whispered, "Yes, let's go inside." As I stepped into the apartment, I could feel her eyes on me. She was watching me, trying to read my reaction. Maybe she was afraid I'd say something. Maybe she thought I'd break down right there. But I didn't. I held my head high. Even though inside, I was falling apart. I never imagined my fresh start, my new beginning, would begin like this. How did I get here? I thought. How did I end up standing face to face with the woman who took my place? To understand that moment, we have to go back. Back to when everything seemed normal, when I still believed in forever. It had been almost 2 years since the divorce. I was finally beginning to heal. My friends called me strong, but deep down I still felt like a cracked vase, standing tall but fragile. I lived with my daughter, Lily, who had just started college. When she left for school, the house felt too big, too empty. So I decided it was time to move. A new apartment. A smaller space. A fresh chapter. I wanted a home filled with peace, not memories. The day I started searching, I walked through different neighborhoods looking for rent signs. Most places were either too expensive or too gloomy. Then I found it, a neat 2-bedroom apartment with a small garden and big windows that caught the morning sun. The moment I saw it, I felt something in my chest whisper, "This is the one." The landlord, Mr. Harris, was kind. He told me another tenant had just moved into the unit next door. "A lovely young couple," he said. I smiled politely. I didn't care who they were. I just wanted peace. That night, I packed my things slowly, one box for books, one for kitchenware, and one filled with old photos. I stared at a picture of Daniel and me from our wedding day. He looked proud. I looked naive. I tore the picture in half and dropped it in the trash. "This move will be my new beginning," I said out loud. The next morning, I dressed neatly and headed to the apartment complex to sign the lease. I carried my hopes in one hand and my peace of mind in the other. I never imagined both would shatter within minutes. When I arrived, the sun was bright, the air warm. I saw a moving truck parked near the building, probably the couple Mr. Harris mentioned. I didn't pay attention to them at first. I was too busy rehearsing questions to ask about rent, utilities, and parking. But as I stepped closer, I heard laughter. A familiar laugh. I froze for a second, shaking my head. No, it can't be. Then I heard it again, deeper this time. A man's voice that once used to call me honey. My chest tightened. My hands grew cold. I took a slow breath and kept walking, trying to convince myself I was just imagining things. But when the door opened, my fears came true. There she was, Emily, the woman Daniel married right after our divorce. She looked elegant, confident, and far too comfortable. Behind her stood Daniel, helping her unpack. Their laughter died the second they saw me. My throat went dry. I wanted to run, to disappear, but I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring. Emily blinked, her face turning pale. "Helen," she said softly. Daniel stepped forward, his voice awkward. What are you doing here? I wanted to laugh at the question. What am I doing here? I was here to rebuild my life, the one he'd broken. I came to sign the lease, I said, forcing a calm tone. Mr. Harris appeared behind me with a set of keys. Mrs. Thompson. Perfect timing. This will be your new apartment, he said, pointing to the door next to theirs. You'll be neighbors with Daniel and Emily. Isn't that something? Something. Yes. Something indeed. Emily's smile faltered. Daniel's face turned red. My hands trembled, but I held them behind my back so no one would see. Well, I said, steadying my voice. Looks like we'll be seeing a lot of each other. And then, right there in the hallway, the key slipped from Mr. Harris's hand. It hit the floor with a sharp clang that echoed through the quiet building. And somehow, that sound felt like the start of something none of us were ready for. Because what came after that, no one could have predicted. The sound of that key hitting the floor echoed in my ears all night. I kept replaying that moment. Their faces, their shock, the tension so thick I could almost touch it. I tried to convince myself that it didn't matter. I was a grown woman. I had survived worse. I could survive being neighbors with my ex-husband and his new wife. But deep down, I knew peace wouldn't come easy. That night, I unpacked my boxes in silence. Every thud of my shoes against the wooden floor reminded me that just a wall away, they were living their new life together. I could hear faint music, laughter, and Daniel's voice. The same voice that once told me he loved me, now whispering to another woman. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank wall separating us. Maybe this is life's way of testing me, I muttered. Maybe I'm supposed to prove I can rise above it. The next morning, I forced myself into a routine. Coffee, a walk, cleaning, anything to distract me. But as I stepped out of my apartment, Emily came out at the same time. She froze when she saw me, clutching a basket of laundry. Good morning, I said, my voice tight but polite. She blinked and managed a weak smile. Morning. Then, without another word, she hurried down the stairs. I should have felt powerful. After all, she looked nervous, not me. But instead, I felt empty. Because no matter how much I pretended, the truth was, it still hurt. Later that week, I saw Daniel for the first time since that hallway encounter. He was getting out of his car, carrying groceries. Our eyes met briefly, and for a moment, he looked like he wanted to speak. I quickly turned away. He called out softly, Helen, wait. I stopped but didn't turn around. How have you been? He asked, stepping closer. I wanted to laugh. After leaving me for another woman, after breaking a home I spent 20 years building. That was his question? How have you been? Fine, I said coldly. And you? He hesitated. We're good. I didn't know you'd moved here. It's a coincidence? I finished, still not looking at him. Life's full of them. There was an awkward silence before he muttered, yeah. I turned to face him finally. Daniel, whatever history we have, let's keep it that, history. I'm not here to cause problems. I just want peace. He nodded, looking a little embarrassed. Of course. I respect that. But deep down, I could see something flicker in his eyes, guilt, or maybe regret. From that day, things became strange. I started noticing little things. Whenever I stepped outside, I'd catch Emily watching me from their window. When I greeted her, she'd look away. Sometimes at night, I'd hear them arguing. Her voice sharp, his voice low. One evening, while taking out the trash, I found Emily standing by the bins, her face red from crying. She quickly wiped her eyes when she saw me. Rough night? I asked gently. She gave a weak laugh. Something like that. I nodded and turned to leave, but she spoke again. He still talks about you, you know? I froze. Excuse me. She sighed. Daniel. He doesn't mean to, but sometimes he compares things, the way I cook, or how I do laundry. He doesn't realize it, but I notice. Her voice trembled. And for the first time, I didn't see her as the woman who stole my husband. I saw her as a woman stuck in the same kind of pain I once knew. I'm sorry, I said quietly. She shook her head. Don't be. I chose this. I just didn't know what kind of man he really was. Before I could reply, Daniel's voice boomed from the doorway. Emily, what are you doing out there? She jumped and quickly turned away. I should go, she whispered, and hurried back inside. I stood there in the dark, the streetlight flickering above me, realizing that maybe fate had placed me here for a reason. Not to torture me, but to show me the truth I'd been too blind to see before. But peace didn't last. A few nights later, I woke to the sound of shouting. It was coming from their apartment. Emily's voice was cracking with tears. I pressed my ear against the wall, hearing Daniel yell. You think I still care about her? You're crazy. And then, a crash. I jumped to my feet, heart racing. Should I knock? Call the police? I hesitated, torn between fear and instinct. Finally, I ran into the hallway and banged on their door. Daniel! Emily! What's going on? I shouted. The door opened suddenly, and Daniel stood there, breathing hard, his face red. Stay out of this, Helen, he snapped. Behind him, Emily was crying, holding her wrist. I just need some air, she said shakily, rushing past him and running down the stairs. I glared at him. You haven't changed, have you? He clenched his jaw. This isn't your business. I stepped closer, my voice firm. You made it my business when you brought your chaos next door to me. He looked furious, but I didn't flinch. I'd faced this man's anger before, and I wasn't afraid anymore. Emily didn't come home that night. And when she finally did, the next morning, she knocked on my door. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. Can I talk to you? She whispered. That was the moment I realized this story wasn't just about me anymore. Something darker was unfolding. And I was right in the middle of it. Emily sat on my couch, clutching a cup of tea with trembling hands. Her voice was small. I don't know why I came here. I just didn't know where else to go. I sat across from her, watching her closely. She looked broken, the same way I looked 2 years ago. You can stay as long as you need, I said softly. She nodded but didn't look up. I thought Daniel had changed, she said after a pause. He promised he wasn't that man anymore. But last night, her words trailed off. I sighed deeply. I used to believe the same thing, I said. I stayed for years, hoping he'd become the man I wanted him to be. But he only got worse. Tears spilled down her cheeks. He gets angry so easily. He says I make him feel small. That's what he does, I replied gently. He makes you believe his anger is your fault. But it's not. It never was. For the first time, she looked at me, really looked. There was surprise in her eyes, maybe even gratitude. You don't hate me? She asked. I hesitated, then smiled sadly. I did once. I thought you took my life away. But now I see, you only took my pain sooner than I could get rid of it. Her eyes widened, and then she let out a shaky laugh through her tears. For the next few days, she stayed quiet. Daniel kept knocking on her door, shouting apologies, leaving flowers by her steps. She ignored him, hiding in her apartment. But peace never lasts long around Daniel. One afternoon, as I was watering my plants on the balcony, I saw him storm up the walkway. He was angry, holding something in his hand, Emily's phone. He banged on her door. You blocked me now? Really, Emily? He shouted. I froze. His tone was dangerous. I could tell. Emily didn't answer, so he slammed the door again, louder this time. Open this door before I break it down. I dropped the watering can and ran downstairs. Daniel, stop this. I yelled. He turned, his face full of rage. Stay out of this, Helen. Or what? You'll hit me too. I snapped. His jaw tightened. This is between me and my wife. Not when she's scared to breathe, I shot back. Neighbors began to peek out their doors. Daniel realized people were watching. His expression changed, anger melting into fake calm. He forced a smile. We're fine, he said to everyone, then glared at me. You're making this worse. Emily opened the door a crack, her voice trembling. Please just go, Daniel. He looked at her for a long time, his eyes cold. You'll regret this, he muttered, then walked away. When he was gone, Emily burst into tears. He won't stop, she whispered. He'll come back. I placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we'll be ready, I said firmly. You're not alone this time. For the first time in years, I felt strong again. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I was finally standing up for someone the way no one had stood up for me. But that night, as I locked my door, I noticed something strange. A piece of paper had been slipped under it. I bent down and picked it up. Scrawled across the page in Daniel's handwriting were 5 chilling words. "You'll regret taking her side." My heart stopped. And in that instant, I realized, the past I thought I'd left behind wasn't finished with me yet. I stood in my kitchen, staring at that note as my hands trembled. Those 5 words, "You'll regret taking her side," echoed inside my head over and over. I could feel my heartbeat thudding in my ears. For years, Daniel had made me feel small, powerless, scared. I thought those days were gone. But suddenly, it felt like I was back there again, walking on eggshells, afraid of what he might do next. I took a deep breath and sat down, forcing myself to think clearly. "He's trying to scare you," I told myself. "Don't let him win this time." The next morning, I showed the note to Emily. Her face went pale. "He's never done anything like that before," she whispered. "Do you think he means it?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "Yes," I said. "And that's why we're not going to hide from him anymore." We decided to go to the police station that afternoon. The officer listened, took notes, and promised to file a report. "If he comes near you again, call us right away," he said firmly. "We'll handle it." For the first time in days, I felt a small spark of safety. Emily and I went home, locked our doors, and tried to move on. We spent that evening drinking tea and watching a movie, laughing a little, as if we were 2 old friends instead of 2 women bound by the same pain. But peace didn't last long. At midnight, I woke to the sound of something outside my window. A faint scraping noise. My heart jumped. I got out of bed quietly, tiptoeing toward the sound. And then I saw it, a shadow moving near my garden. I froze. The shape looked familiar, tall, broad shoulders. My breath caught in my throat. "Daniel." I reached for my phone, but before I could dial, the shadow moved closer to Emily's side of the building. I ran to her door, banging hard. "Emily, wake up," I hissed. She opened the door, sleepy and confused. "What's wrong?" "He's outside," I whispered urgently. "I just saw him near your window." Her eyes widened in terror. "Oh my God." We stood there in silence, listening. Then we heard it, the crunch of footsteps retreating down the driveway. I grabbed her arm. "We're calling the police." The officers arrived within minutes. They searched the area but didn't find anyone. One of them looked at us sympathetically. "We'll increase patrols tonight," he said. "Keep your lights on. Lock your doors." After they left, Emily sat on my couch shaking. "I can't live like this, Helen," she whispered. "He's never going to stop." I sighed. "He's used to control. When he loses it, he lashes out. But we're not his victims anymore." She looked at me, eyes red from crying. "You sound so sure." I smiled faintly, because I've already survived him once. The next day, things seemed quiet. Too quiet. I went about my day, cooked breakfast, watered the plants, even chatted with Mr. Harris about a repair in the hallway. But deep inside, I could feel something brewing. Later that evening, Emily came by again. "I've decided to leave," she said softly. "I'm going to stay with my sister for a while. I can't keep looking over my shoulder." I nodded. "That's a good idea. You deserve peace." We hugged tightly before she went back to pack her things. But as she left, a strange heaviness settled in my chest. Something told me Daniel wouldn't let her go that easily. And I was right. Around 9 p.m., I heard shouting again, loud, furious, echoing through the hallway. I ran to my door and swung it open. Daniel was there, pounding on Emily's door with his fist. "Emily, you're not leaving me. You hear me?" he roared. I stepped into the hallway. "Daniel, stop it. You're scaring everyone." He spun around, eyes wild. "Stay out of this, Helen." "Or what?" I said sharply. "You'll hurt me too?" He took a step toward me, his fists clenched. "You think you can take her from me? You ruined everything." Before I could react, Emily's door flew open. "Leave her alone," she screamed, stepping between us. Daniel's face twisted in anger. You both think you can make me the bad guy? He shouted. I could smell the alcohol on his breath. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage. He grabbed a glass vase from the table in the hallway and smashed it against the wall. The sound made everyone in the building come out of their apartments, peeking from behind doors. Daniel! I yelled. You need to stop. He turned to me, eyes full of hatred. You always thought you were better than me, didn't you? He sneered. Get out before I call the police again. I warned, my voice steady even though my heart was racing. He looked at both of us, breathing heavily, then spat on the floor. You'll both regret this, he growled, before storming out. The hallway was silent except for Emily's quiet sobs. I held her hand and whispered, It's over for now. He can't hurt us anymore. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Because when I went back inside my apartment that night, there was another note on my table, one I hadn't noticed before. This time it said, If I can't have peace, neither will you. And under it was a photo of Emily and me, taken that same morning, through my living room window. My blood ran cold. Someone had been watching us. I stared at that photograph for a long time, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold it still. The window behind us in the photo, the date and time stamped at the bottom, it was taken today, which meant Daniel hadn't just been outside our building, he'd been watching, maybe even waiting for the right moment to strike. Emily came running when she heard me gasp. What is it? She asked, breathless. I handed her the note and the photo. The color drained from her face. He's gone completely mad, she whispered. We have to go to the police again, I said. This time we'll show them proof. He's not just threatening, he's stalking us. But before we could leave, a knock echoed through the door. 3 sharp, heavy knocks that made my heart jump into my throat. We froze. Then a man's voice. It's Officer Grayson. You reported an incident last night. I peeked through the peephole. Relief flooded me when I saw the uniform. I quickly opened the door. The officer stepped in, followed by his partner. They examined the photo, took statements, and promised to contact a detective. We'll post an officer here for a few nights, Grayson said. He won't get away with this. For the next few days, life slowed down again. Emily packed her things carefully while I tried to stay calm. We kept the curtains drawn, the lights low. I cooked soup, made tea, and we talked for hours, not about fear but about freedom, about starting over again. It almost felt peaceful. Then one afternoon, as Emily was loading her last box into her car, Daniel appeared again. He stepped out from behind the hedge, looking disheveled, eyes red, clothes wrinkled. Emily, please, he said, voice trembling. Don't go. I just want to talk. Emily froze. I moved in front of her. You need to leave, Daniel, I said firmly. We've called the police. They'll be here any minute. He looked at me, his expression shifting from desperate to furious in an instant. You always turn everyone against me, he spat. First me, now her. What do you get out of this, Helen? You enjoy ruining people's lives. I felt anger rise in me, not fear this time. Real, righteous anger. I took a step closer. You ruined your own life, Daniel. You lost everything because you couldn't be kind. For a moment he looked like he might hit me. But then a siren wailed in the distance, growing louder. He panicked, glancing toward the road. You'll pay for this, he hissed, then turned and ran. The officers arrived seconds later, chasing him down the street. I held Emily close as tears streamed down her face. It's over, I whispered, more to convince myself than her. They caught Daniel 2 blocks away. He was arrested for harassment, trespassing, and violating a restraining order. For the first time in years, I truly believed I was free of him. A week later, Emily came to say goodbye for good. She had found a new apartment in another city. I'll never forget you, Helen, she said softly, hugging me tight. You saved me. I smiled. No, Viv. You saved yourself. You just needed someone to remind you that you could. After she left, I sat by my window, the same window he'd once stood outside of, and watched the sunset paint the sky gold and pink. It felt symbolic, like the world was saying, you made it. I took a deep breath, feeling the quiet for the first time in months. But just as I started to close the window, My eyes caught something on the ground by the hedge. A small piece of paper fluttering in the evening breeze. Curious, I went outside to pick it up. It was old, creased, probably overlooked when the police searched earlier. My heart skipped when I realized what it was. Another note, half torn, the writing smudged but still legible. It said, "If you think I'm gone for good, you don't know me." I stared at it, my stomach twisting. But then, I smiled. A small, calm smile. I folded the paper, went back inside, and locked the door. Because for the first time, I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't that broken woman he once controlled. I was stronger now, stronger than he'd ever imagined. And no matter what came next, I knew this much. You can rebuild a home after it's been broken, but you can also rebuild yourself. That was the lesson I wanted every woman, every grandmother, every daughter, to remember. The scars may stay, but fear doesn't have to. If you believe no one deserves to be treated that way, and every woman deserves peace after pain, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and let the world hear your voice.